Good morning. Buongiorno a tutti. For those of you who were here yesterday, you heard that I stated how really very pleased and honored I am to be back here in the University of Cagliari and also back in Sardinia. And it's always a great pleasure to come and work with colleagues, especially with Riccardo De Lisa, who has, as you know, worked very hard to put together this conference. And I'm very happy to see I survived the gala dinner last night, just barely. Sometimes when you have such a nice event, you run the risk that you don't make it to the next session afterwards. And this reminded me of a recent experience I had. I was giving a speech in the south of France, in Nice, the speech was scheduled for, I think, 10:30 in the morning, and my wife said to me, what time are you speaking? And I said 10:30. She said, well, we probably have a great deal of time to go then to the fish market, Mercato de Pescadori. And I said, well, as long as there is time for me to get back to my hotel and to change and to give my speech, we can do it. So we went, and about 8:30 in the morning, my cell phone goes off, and it is my driver. Whenever I come to Italy, or not whenever, but many times, I do some work here with the Centrale dei Bilanci, which many of you know is located in Torino, and it is a major financial data clearinghouse where about 50 or 60 major Italian banks are shareholders. They contribute the data. We massage the data, put it in a standardized form, and send it back to the banks, either in the form of general data or specific studies on Italy. And my driver from this organization has been for more than 20 years. His name is Mario, and Mario is one of the longest employees of the Centrale dei Bilanci. And at 8:30 in the morning, Mario is calling me on the telefonino, and he says, oh, Professore, where are you? And I said, well, I'm at the fish market. He said, no, you should be here at the hotel. I said, why? He said, well, everybody is waiting for you to give your speech. And I said, no, Mario, I'm speaking later. He says, Professore, I am here at the hotel, and there's 1,000 people waiting for you. And I said, no, it's impossible. But he said, I am here. And he said, oh, Professore, what are you speaking about today? And I said, I'm talking about managing credit risk. He says, oh, Professore, I've heard you give this speech so many times. Perhaps I can give the speech for you today, since you are not here. I said, Mario, you don't understand. It's a highly sophisticated audience with a great deal of scientific and practical background. Do you really think you can give this speech? He said, let me ask you, do they know what you look like? And I said, no, I don't think so, because it's a new group for me. And he said, well, you are there, I am here, what choice do we have? I said, okay, Mario, if you are so sure you can do this, I will try to get back as soon as I can, and we will reverse the roles. I will be your chauffeur today, and you will be the professor. And he said, okay, well, let's do it. So I get back, and it's about 90% finished with the speech. And he is doing a fantastic job. He has the equations all correct. He has the models perfect. His timing is doing really very well. And I'm beginning to feel more relaxed standing in the back. And finally he finishes, and the audience is so appreciative and gives a tremendous round of applause, and we're all feeling very good. And then the moderator says, "Oh, Professor Altman, is there time for one or two questions?" And now I see Mario beginning to sweat a little bit, and I beginning to wonder, and he says, "Well, perhaps one or two." And then, sure enough, a very tall, distinguished scientist in the back of the room asked an extremely difficult quantitative question to Mario. And Mario now is really beginning to sweat quite a bit, and I'm really very nervous now. But this Mario, he is a very clever fellow. And he said to the gentleman in the back, "You know, sir, that question is so simple. Even my chauffeur in the back of the room can answer it." So the taxi driver who took us here today is still here, so if there are any questions, we can ask him. Actually, 75% of that story is true. So you have to figure out which is the 25% that is perhaps not correct. We are very proud to co-host this conference on SMEs, and indeed, it is a very important topic. We completed the parallel sessions. Some of you attended them, and you know that they are mainly scholarly works from academics from more than 11 countries who have come to Cagliari to discuss this subject. And very shortly we will have a roundtable comprised of distinguished diplomats, regulators, and practitioners from Italy, and we are all eagerly looking forward to their comments. We are asked as a small number of speakers to set the stage for that roundtable. Let me say a few words about SMEs and their place in the world economy. And then perhaps to suggest how we as academics can make contributions to the continuing discussion. Oftentimes in the area of public debate dealing with economic phenomena, one of the major constituents of that debate is oftentimes not heard very clearly and is not represented very strongly. And I think that's the case with SMEs. However, the SMEs play an enormous role in many economies, especially here in countries like Italy. And at the same time, they are a potent political force, and therefore they are understood to have a very important impact on the economy and the country. And so politicians and perhaps public servants oftentimes try to make policy with the SMEs in mind. But they are usually indirect, and it is not clear how their role is being heard. An example of that is the coming regulation with respect to Basel II, which I mentioned yesterday for those of you who were here. Basel II, as you know, will become the reality very shortly throughout the world, and particularly in Europe, it is mandated by the European Parliament that all banks must participate, and therefore, for the first time, counterparties like firms, countries, consumers will be evaluated based on their credit risk characteristics. And the amount of capital that banks must hold will be a function of that evaluation. Well, this represents a new paradigm. And whenever you have a new paradigm that is not very well understood by the participants, particularly those that will be impacted, you have many emotions. Fear. How will I be treated under the new system?